Cool. Done. Right. Right. So those that are, sorry, there's people joining still, so let me on that. Cool. Right, so for those of you that are new to these, call a quick introduction then. So I'm Chris, I'm one of the newly recruited volunteers. I've got 2 swimmers in the club, and therefore, like many of you, I'm spending a lot of time hanging around the Vale pool, mostly in the dark. So I am longing for winter to be over. But one of the jobs the committee have trusted me with is to host these parent video calls, and it's kind of like a club newsletter, but with just less effort of writing stuff down, which absolutely suits me fine. And this is actually the second of these calls, and they really are here for parents of our younger swimmers, so those that are in our development squads, and especially for those swimmers that are fairly new into the club and just don't really fully know how it all works yet. And actually, speaking of new swimmers, I'm pleased to say, Lisa just told me there, we've got 11 new swimmers that have successfully completed a club trial and joined us this month. So if you are a parent of one of our newbies, it's a big welcome from all of us. And the plan for these calls is that you'll be able to hear directly from the coaches and what your swimmers are working on. And it's just a place where club volunteers and coaches can answer any questions that you might have. So just during the call, just feel free to use the chat function to let us know what you'd like us to cover in future calls. And of course, just any questions that you might have on what we're covering today, just pop it into the chat. So for this month, to help me, we've got our head coach, Heather, and we've also got some volunteers. So Dawn and Lisa are here to share some updates. So I'm just going to share my screen just to let you know what we're all going to cover. Hopefully, you can see that now. Cool. Right, so first up, I'm going to give an overview of how to enter your swimmer for a meet. So for those of you that are new to meets, basically they're swimming competitions that you can choose to enter your swimmer in. And entering, of course, is completely up to you and, of course, your swimmer. But it's just some of the feedback we've had is that the process for entering can be a bit confusing, but once you know, and it's pretty straightforward. So I'll spend a bit of time on that. And Susan, our club president, she can't actually make it today, but she has been busy working up details for this year's mini league. Sorry, there's people joining, so let me just accept it. So yeah, so she's been busy working up this year's mini league. So as she can't make it, I'll give a brief overview on that. And then we have Dawn and Lisa, who just want to discuss the role of STOs with you. So that's a new acronym for you all. It's a new one for me. And the club basically needs your help with this. So all will be explained there. And we've also been able to get the time of Heather. So she's going to give an overview of what each of the teams will be focusing on. And new for this year, the coaching team have spent some time creating new squad outlines. And today is the day we're going to share all of these with you. And then we'll go back to Lisa and give a quick overview of club kit and how to order. And then lastly, if you've missed anything, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. And again, just use that chat function. Just pop them in as soon as questions come into your head. And we're going to try and squeeze all of this into 30 to 40 minutes. So we're certainly going to give it a go. Right, so let's talk meets. I'll start with just how meets are put together. And I'm learning as well. So this is kind of an overview of everything that I've been learning over the last 6 months. But firstly, any swim club can organise a meet. It's completely down to the hosting swim club, what their meet may look like. And the formats can be different. So some may focus on an age category, a distance, long course or short course, some new terminology that I've learned, or even just specific times. And as an example, your swimmer may be too slow or even too fast to enter specific meets. But on this slide, hopefully you can see, these are just some of the examples of the clubs that have recently hosted our swimmers and meets. And, you know, I'll put our logo up there as well, because although we haven't hosted a meet for quite some time, it is a long-term ambition for the club to host a meet. But the first step in the process is for Heather. So Heather spends a lot of time creating the club's calendar and essentially recommends which meets are suitable for each of our squads. And it's these recommendations that are then shared with our meet secretary. So Kirsty and Carol, they're both parent volunteers, and they do a cracking job just liaising with host clubs and submitting our meet entries. But to do this, they will share details of upcoming meets using our On Deck app. And you can see a kind of picture of that on the screen there. And what I'll just say at this point, if you haven't got access to the app or just have trouble accessing the app, then just let us know in the chat, and, you know, we'll get back in touch with you and just help you with it. So that's kind of how we go about it. But once you've got the app, you'll be able to see the details of the meet, you know, when and where, and if there are time restrictions, then details are generally shared here too. And for each meet, you'll also see which squads Heather is recommended should apply for that particular meet. So if you like what you see and your swimmer wants to participate, then you just simply select the commitment button. And once we have all of our entries, these are then just shared with the coaching team. And at this stage, the coaching team could intervene. So, you know, approval may involve a little time trial. Perhaps your swimmer doesn't have a time for that particular swim that they've applied for. So we'll try and do that within a training session. But generally, they are only ever declined by our coaching team if the times just aren't right or the meet just isn't suitable for the swimmer's age and squad. So that's the only reason why you might not put through a swimmer for a meet. And then the final stage, and I think it's this stage that can just lead to some misunderstandings. So once the registration deadline has been, so I just accept another. Aaron, cool. So yeah, once the registration deadline has been reached and the coaching team are happy with all of that, that doesn't necessarily mean our swimmers have been accepted by the host club. And I think that's the most common misunderstanding. It's only at this stage that Kirsty and Carol will submit all of our entries to the host club. And it's really up to that host club whether they're going to accept or scratch your swimmer. And, you know, if your swimmer is scratched, that means your swimmer's been declined. And usually only that would happen if the meet is oversubscribed. And generally, the swimmers with the slowest times will be declined. So once we know that, and we know who's been accepted or scratched, then that's where Kirsty and Carol will share all the details with parents. And that's usually over an email. It's typically a big PDF file with a long list of all the competing swimmers from the clubs. And it's just really important that you read that email and look for your swimmer's name and the outcome as well. And it's only really at this stage that we would just recommend that you make plans to, you know, attend, and of course just inform your swimmer the good news as well. So just wanted to kind of clear that up just to make sure everyone had that kind of collective understanding. But Heather, is there anything I've missed there that you just wanted to add?
Sometimes at some meets on the final entry list, it might come up with RES next to it. That means reserve, which means that on the day of the competition, if a swimmer was to withdraw, so an accepted swimmer, if they were to withdraw, the reserve then gets the swim. So if your swimmer is a reserve, really they should be coming along to the competition. If they get a reserve spot and don't turn up, you won't get your money back. Whereas if they're a reserve and they turn up on the day, end up not getting to swim, you will get the money back. Obviously, it's a trip out, but really, most reserves do tend to, at age group meets, do tend to get their swims. It's only when you get to the kind of higher up levels that you start to see that they don't. So yeah, just that's another little abbreviation that might appear that you might be unsure of.
All right, I'm glad you covered that one then, because that's a new one for me as well. Okay, right. Hopefully that's all pretty clear then. what I wanted to do now then is just lastly, just do a quick debrief on the outcome of the last meet that our younger swimmers in our development squads were able to apply for. And it seems like a lifetime ago now because it was a wet weekend in East Kilbride back in November. But really, as a club, we're all very proud of just some of the team achievements because for many of our younger swimmers, it really was their first experience of a competition. So it was a 2-day event, and we actually had 4 swimmers from our development squads apply, which is great, and 3 were accepted by the host club, and all 3 actually gained medals and PBs. So it's just a cracking result. And on the Sunday event, much more popular, we had 22 swimmers from our development squads actually apply, and that's great. Just seeing so many of our younger swimmers actually wanting to compete in that kind of environment. But it was oversubscribed, so 7 of our development squads were accepted, and all 7 again gained medals or PBs. So it's just a cracking result all round. And now we're kind of looking forward just to the next big meet for our development squads, and it's in 2 weekends' time. It's in Grangemouth, so I'm sure you'll all be looking forward to that journey for those parents of swimmers that are competing. Right, I think that's enough on meets. So I'll just talk a little bit about mini league, and really this is Susan's great work, but she just can't make it today, so I'll do my best to do it justice. But for those of you that haven't experienced it, mini league it's a fun introduction to swimming competitions. It's kind of like a meet, but it's a bit more about the taking part and being part of a team than a traditional swimming competition. So Susan is busy planning. I think there's 3 match rounds. They start in March and they'll go through to May, and there'll be some finals in June. And I think exact dates are currently being shared with Kirsty. And to make this happen, we will be joining up with other swim clubs in our district. And really, it's just a cracking opportunity for young swimmers to experience a team event, show support for the team, their teammates, and just learn about basic swimming competition in an environment that just doesn't have that pressure. It's a friendly environment. Now, teams will be selected by our coaching teams, and but all swimmers will be given the opportunity to take part, though. And I think for me, the really good part of this is that we'll be hosting many of these events in our own pool. So the swimmers get this experience in an environment that they're used to. As I said, it's open to everyone. So the full details, they've been worked on by Susan. I haven't seen them, but we're just talking about it amongst ourselves. And on our next parent call, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on mini league and all the plans that Susan has been working on. And we'll try and explain what, when, where, dates, and how we're going to run it. Now, the reason, though, I'm mentioning mini league today really is just to set up our next section of our call from Dawn and Lisa. To make events like mini league work for us, we need more STOs. That's that acronym again. And mini league really is for our younger swimmers, so we just need a bit of support from parents to make it work. So I was thinking, Dawn, it would be good if you could just step in here and just, first of all, just talk about an STO, the acronym, and what do we do, why do we need them? You're on mute, though. It's a video call classic.
Rare, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, well, timekeeping, or STO, Swimming Technical Official, it's a really good way to get involved, with swimming and supporting your child, but anybody from the age of over 14 can do it. You can start, I think there's a wee online course I think you can do now, and then just do like a practical session, like a wee swim meet, something like even at the upcoming what's it you call it again, the mini league coming up, which would be ideal for parents or older siblings to help out. It's enjoyable. You get to see the actual swimming competition, right up front, instead of being away up on the decks, watching. You can see how the swimming swimming works, the rules of swimming. Sometimes you get to see your own, if your own child swimming in certain lane, you get to see them. But we're really needing people to come and help and volunteer with it. It's not really hard. It's just making sure that the swimmers get their times, which I think is important, if they're up to doing their competitions. And our little club is just needing some people to help out. And if there's any questions, anything about timekeeping or that you want to ask, can you please let me know?
Right.
What else would you like to know about it?
Well, obviously we need more timekeepers. I think Lisa's already signed me up for the course. I don't know, Lisa, are you still on? It might be worthwhile just sharing.
Yeah, because I'm not very sure how it's working these days. I think you can just download, go on to Institute of Swimming. You can get a wee online course. You do a few modules, and then you can just, at any meet, you can just start doing your timekeeping. There'll be somebody always there just to show you what to do. But I mean, one of the good opportunities would be things like the club championships, because if we didn't have people like volunteers, timekeepers, we wouldn't be able to do that. The mini league is certainly going to need people, because the other clubs that come, they'll provide technical officials, but we'll need to provide technical officials as well. Any meets that you go to, younger swimmers as well, they're always looking for people to help so that the meets can run. And also as well, you get to meet other people, and usually if you're doing more 2 sessions, you get fed as well, which is always quite nice.
I'm happy with that.
I know, it's just to make it, and some of these clubs are good, they provide, because you're helping out, you're volunteering. And but it's just really to get people say it's not that it's not a difficult, it's just be part of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, Dawn, and especially if you've got swimmers competing in ways, you might as well. Yeah,
definitely, because if you're going to be there all day, I always think it's quite heavy going, just up at your, watching. And if you want to be part of it, that's great. And you actually get to see, the actual swimming and understand swimming. I mean, I'm learning, like the rules of swimming and what it's all involved. So is there anybody that's keen wants to ask any questions?
Well, I was going to say then, Dawn, is Lisa, you were going to kind of cover off the kind of nuts and bolts of how it would work, and then just ideally we're looking for volunteers. So if you can just put your name in the chat if you're up for it. You've already signed me up, Lisa, for the course when you were ready to organise. Do you want to cover it?
No, that's fine. I've signed up as well for it. I'm not a timekeeper, but I do help out at meets as well. But timekeepers, a lot of swimmers have moved on, especially after COVID. So clubs are struggling for the STOs, and that's part of the reason why I've done it. But the process to become an STO or a timekeeper, it's the very first step into the kind of officiating of the swimming world. Dawn has been doing it for a long time. She's had one swimmer that's progressed all the way through the club and left, and she's got our boy at the club now, and has moved up the kind of ranks with officiating. But the first step is to become a volunteer member of the swim club. So we would register you as a member of Scottish Swimming. The club will cover the cost for that, and you get issued with a Scottish Swimming number. When you get that number, you would let us know what the number is, and then we book you onto the training. The training, very recently, it has been self-study, where you get a book and you work through it and then send the results away, either via me or via the contact at West Districts. They'll mark it, sign you off, and then you go and do your shadowing at a club meet. And like Dawn said, it can be the mini league as well. they are talking about moving it forward to be doing maybe a Teams call, and that Teams call, it doesn't last very long. It is an hour and a half of training and how to become a timekeeper. Then you get your workbook and then your test after that as well. So they're not quite at that stage to reintroduce that, but it is coming. So I'm not sure what the format will be, if it'll be self-study or you'll get the call with West Districts who look after our volunteers. We would only approach parents that are timekeepers to volunteer at swim meets that their swimmers attending. Swim meets are usually done in 2 sessions, so the morning session and the afternoon session. So if your swimmer was in the afternoon session, we would never ask you to volunteer in the morning session. We would only ask you to do it in the afternoon session. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. The training, I would like to say it's not hard, but I've never done it myself and I'm not the best with numbers, but I'm sure there's a process that you pick up, and I think we can only try it and see how we get on. And if we get enough volunteers, it just means the kind of workload and the ask is spread out over a lot of us rather than just some of us as well. So let us know. You can either email me at the secretary email, you can stick your name into the chat. We're aiming to try and get 10 volunteers, and I think we've got 3 already, and that's including Chris and myself. So if you want to go forward for it, it would be great. What I would say is you've probably seen the timekeepers wearing full whites at poolside. This is genuinely a requirement when you go to meets, is to wear, you know, white shoes, white trousers and a white t-shirt. The club do have timekeeping t-shirts, so that's something we can pick up once you're qualified and you're signed up to meets as well. But I'm sure most clubs don't actually bother if you don't have it there and then as well. But it does become part of the timekeeping uniform as you get more involved in it as well. So just thought I'd let you know about the white outfit. So yeah, any questions on that?
I'll ask you something, Lisa. See, for the timekeeping,
yeah,
the mini league, do you have to be, that's what I wondered, if you have to be a member of Scottish Swimming to do the timekeeping?
So for mini league, so all meets are different levels, and the level that the mini league heats are at, you don't need to be a qualified timekeeper to take part in them.
Which would be really ideal.
It's a great opportunity to get that experience. The same with our club championships, because it's not an accredited meet, we don't need to be qualified. If the club get into the final of mini league, that becomes an accredited meet. I can't remember what level it is, but you need to be Scottish Swimming officials to be able to participate as a timekeeper at the final of mini league. The meets like the Bells Hills meet or the Stirling meet, the Grangemouth meet, they all need to be qualified for them. So the Stirling meet that's coming up as well, you need to be qualified for that. But mini league rounds and club champs, you don't need to be. So it's great. And we had great parent engagement at the time trials that we kind of ran in that theme of a meet. So it would be great if any of them or anybody wants to sign up and support.
Yeah, because I was going to suggest that as well at the time trials. That's an ideal for somebody that's never done it before, just to go and do it. Like even a club time trial. That would be ideal, just to get the gist of it, and then just
to get
come and
help. Because what we found last year is a lot of the parents from the top end of the club, they came and supported mini league, and they supported the time trials when they never had swimmers there, with the hope that more parents would get involved at the bottom end of the club. We do have parents that no longer have swimmers at the club that still offer their support, but it really would be ideal if we can tap into that support with existing members that are there as well. So yeah, if you're interested, pop your interest in the chat or email myself at the secretary email. I'll stick that into the chat and we can get the ball rolling. But it is great fun.
Can I just add a wee thing? see, for competitions, it's actually a requirement that the club provides a certain number of STOs depending on how many swimmers we have at the competition. So if we're not able to also give and provide the right number of STOs, then makes it a bit more difficult for us to enter competitions. So that's why we are really needing the help as well.
Oh, great. That's exactly, I didn't want to say that. I really didn't want to say that, because because other clubs are like, got maybe, you go to a competition, they've got maybe 9, 10, and we've got.
Oh, Dawn's froze.
We lost you there, Dawn.
But, me?
Yeah,
Lost
you're back
me.
now.
Yeah, I think that's our pitch anyway. But yeah, please get in touch with Lisa then on that. I think then what we'll do, guys, thanks for covering that, is just move on to Heather. You've been busy working with the coaching team on squad outlines, so just really over to you just to explain the concept and what you've been working on and what the teams are going to be doing.
Yeah, I'll try not take too long, because I do realise that we've been on this call for quite a wee while. But yeah, we've been working on some new squad outlines, just starting to change the criteria a wee bit. So some of our swimmers that been in the club a wee bit longer might start to see a wee bit of change in how they're progressing through the squads. One question we might get is, why now? I've come in last April, and really I've been using the start of me being here to kind of assess where the club's at and just what we're needing to do to help the kids progress long term. So it's been kind of the last few months starting to assess, look at what we need to do, actually trying out a couple of different wee things. And I've sat down with the coaching team and we've decided this is kind of the way to go now. So what are the changes? The biggest changes are, before they were progressing more based on their times. Personally, I'm not a big believer of kids focusing on times. I'm more of a believer of they should be really focusing on their skills and their technical ability, which is going to help them a lot longer term than who can swim the fastest for a length. Yeah, at the level that these guys are at, we're looking more at the technical ability. So that's how they'll progress. They'll be assessed constantly, and when they're ready, based on the kind of coaches, like what the coaches are, I guess when the coaches think that they're ready, that's when they'll get moved. So I'll just go through each of the squads. So foundation, don't worry about the ages too much, because I know that there's some kids that are a wee bit older, some that might be younger, but yeah, roughly around the age of 10. They'll be developing technical understanding of all 4 strokes, which they should already have from the Learn to Swim programme, and then we are just starting to build on it. A lot of it is just kind of them getting to work it out themselves. We'll obviously guide them, but just kind of getting in and just trying what we're getting them to do. Equipment list, I did put it on TU, but making sure they've got a kickboard, a pull buoy, fins, snorkels there as well, and full water bottles. But foundation aims, again, working on the 4 strokes, but also working on the 4 strokes aerobically. So being able to complete the kind of technical criteria that we're looking for over a certain distance. Skill development, that's just going to be working on their feel for the water, which is quite important for when they start to advance their technique. Race starts and turns, underwater development, which is just the fly kicks and stuff underwater off the walls. And then just introduction to the basic rules of competition. The level of competition that these guys will be competing at, they're not looking for, them to be perfect. They're not expecting them to be perfect. Neither are we. So as long as they understand the basics, how marshalling works, where they're to go, the whistles at the start of the race and things, that's the main thing. I'll go on to Foundation Plus. So Foundation Plus, again, still technical development, but they'll also just be introduced to some basic training sets, and they'll also probably get the opportunity to go to more junior competitions. These guys are probably more in line of where Skills 2 are, just because of then the progression that we've currently got, where really these guys would be looking to progress into our C squad. So introducing them to training sets to prepare them for that. The same equipment list. For their aims, it's really quite the same as Foundation, where they're developing their strokes over a certain distance. Introduction to basic training zones, that is, it's a wee bit more of a coaching concept where they'll be doing maybe some speed work, there might be aerobic work, there might be technical work. It's all these different kinds of training, basically. Race starts and turns. The turns are including IM turns. We've not included that in Foundation because it's not something that necessarily their level of competition would be looking at, whereas Foundation Plus, their competition level would be looking more at, they need to be able to do the IM turns properly. Underwater development again, and again, introduction to the basic rules of competition. What both of the criterias and the Skills 1 and Skills 2 criterias will also say is, while we are assessing them and they'll progress based on their technical development and their aerobic fitness, we do still take into account their attendance, their engagement, just the consistency of effort that they're putting in. And yeah, so that'll also be considered. To be moved up from F plus, preferably would be 11 to move up to C squad. I think it also says it in the Skills 2 one, but I'll get there in a wee second. Skills 1, we've got, again, they'll be working on technical development. It'll be a wee bit more progressive from Foundation. So we'll be looking at a wee bit more intermediate level kind of training techniques, and they'll be starting to practice them over bigger distances as well. They'll progress into racing starts and turns, which will be including the IM, as did the Foundation Plus. They'll progress their underwater more, and then introduction to intermediate level sculls. So really it's kind of the same thing, just at an intermediate level, whereas Foundation is more of a kind of baseline foundation level. Skills 2, so they are still technical development, but they are also going to be intro to learn to train. So similar to Foundation Plus, they'll be developing their technical skills, they'll be developing their aerobic skills, but they'll also be introduced to those training zones that I was talking about, just to prepare them for moving up into the C squad. Just making sure I've not missed anything. Aims, again, pretty much the same as Foundation and Skills 1, but Skills 2 will be looking at maybe more advanced training techniques. And to move up from Skills 2 into C squad, you will need to be 11 years or older by the end of the year. This is just because when the swimmers progress to C squad, their target meets will be West Districts, and you need to be 11 by the end of the year to be able to compete at them. So it's just so that they are, they're at the age group that really that group are working to. But we will be looking at whether they're able to cope with the training demands of the C squads, which currently I look after distance C, Declan looks after sprint C. So normally we would have a chat and have a look at the swimmers and see if we feel that they are ready and would be able to cope with it. I think that's about it. One thing that is in all of these squads criterias is the mini league. We are encouraging all the kids from these squads, where the age allows, to compete in the mini league, just because it is a very good intro to competition. Being a swimming club, competing is what we do. So it is something that is going to be in the criteria, is that we do expect them and encourage them, if selected for the team, which all kids should have the opportunity to be selected. We do encourage them to come and compete, and we'll kind of be considering that when looking at promotions and things, who's engaging with competition and those and that as well. So yeah, that's a very quick overview. In terms of the technical criteria, the coaches do have, they've got a big document full of what each squad is looking for, very, very specific stuff that they'll be working on, and making sure that it means that our CLC groups and our Vale groups will both be working on the same thing, so that we should see a kind of equal progression through. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's a quick overview of that.
Thank you for sharing. I know you've been busy working through this and just putting a structure around it, so it's good to be able to share it with everybody. I think we're going to put it on the website as well, and it can just be a reference point. All right, Heather, thanks for covering that. We've got one final piece then, just we wanted to cover off, and it's back to you, Lisa, if you're still on. It's just club kit. Where to go, how to do it.
So the club do have an official kit. You'll be able to see some of the pictures on the screen just now. We don't stock any of the club kit at the club, but you can view it all online, and that's the website there. So it's PSL Team Sports, and it's all made once you put the order in as well. So prices, all orders need to be done online. We do have samples that we can share with new parent swimmers. We'll usually bring these along to club champs and mini leagues as well. So, you know, your swimmer can try it on just to check for size before you commit to ordering anything. But I would be happy either to bring them down by prior arrangement, either at the Vale or Clydebank, for your swimmers to try on when they're at the session, or get somebody else to bring them down. So again, I've put my email address in the chat. If you do want that, I'll try and make some time to bring it down so you can try them on. The prices range from £5 to £35. So the main item that the swimmers do need is the swim caps, so they're £5. We do have a very small stock available of swim caps, but we'll usually take them along to meets. I'll put an order in fairly soon, so they will be able to get purchased by contacting us. But if you do put an order in for a t-shirt or a hoodie, I would advise you to buy the cap as well. There's two different types of cap. There's a bullet cap and there's just a standard cap. The standard cap's fine. You don't need to pay any more because I think the bullet cap's quite expensive, and I think there's been a few mistakes in the past, including me, that bought the bullet cap as well at some point. I
bought the bullet cap for my daughter. She hated it.
I know it is a bit different for the normal cap. So so we've got t-shirts, we've got shorts, we've got hoodies, we've got leggings. We've also got other sort of trousers, and there's zippers there as well. And it does look really nice when all the kids are at a meet together and they've all got on their Western Berkshire t-shirts. It does make them look really good. So yeah, there's two different designs of the t-shirts. There's the wave design, and there's also plain ones as well. We're not precious in terms of what t-shirt to buy, or you know, if it's just a plain one or the wave one, the kids can get their name across the back of it, and they also get their initials either on the sleeve or the leg of it. So it makes it really personal to them as well. And they get really proud when they're wearing their kit uniform as well. So if you want to order some stuff, that's the website. You can take note of that. And if you do want to try some kit on, pop me an email. I do work full time, and I'm at the pool. I'm at the Vale in the morning, so most of these won't be there. But I'm at Clydebank, so it's no bother to make arrangement to come down and get your kids to try it on. So yeah, that's the club kit. When my daughter started years ago, she just did the t-shirt. Now she stoats about poolside with the shorts and the leggings and the hoodie and everything else on as well. So and she loves it. She literally lives in her club kit. So yeah, I would encourage you, if you can. The club earn a very small amount of commission off every order that's purchased, and we get that reimbursed to us on a yearly basis. So in April, PSL will send us a cheque basically with, I think it's about 2% commission of all sales. All that money is put back into the club again. So if it's to pay for pool hire for club champs, or snacks for the kids, or I can't really think of anything else that we've done, maybe training at a long course swimming pool, if we can subsidise some of that stuff, that's where the funding comes from. So just to let you know, we do get a wee bit of commission off the sales, but it's not massive, and it's always reimbursed back into the club again. So yeah, that's our club kit.
Right, thank you, Lisa. Just leaves us to Q&A then. I think we're kind of roughly on time, I'm going to say. So just thanks for everyone for helping with it. So I've got a few questions. I'm not going to be the best place to answer them then, but I'll just quickly go through them. Just one of the questions is, if it's a competition your child isn't eligible, should you still declare them as not going? So would that be one for you, Heather, you could answer?
This is a Kirsty question, but Kirsty I don't think's here. So I know that some people do like declare them that they're not going. Really, as long as we know who's declared that they are going, that's kind of the main thing. If you can declare them as not going, at least we know that they're definitely not going. So, you know what, I'll say yes, if you can.
Right, that's a good tip then. I've not been doing that. All right, another question then. Will there be an opportunity to have your child's times done again soon, especially at the Clydebank pool? So this is back to time trial. So have we got any future ones in the pipeline coming up? Probably be good to do that before a mini league, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'd quite like to do. We had one obviously before Christmas. I'd quite like to do another one. I'm hesitant to do during session time trials. So sometimes we get like Kirsty might, our entry secretary might message and say that one or two swimmers need a time for competitions and things. Is it possible to get it during training? That's quite disruptive to the session as a whole, because we need to stop the session time and do different things. So I'm hesitant to do it during training, but I want to try and organise another time trial. We usually just do it at Vale because we're key holder there, so it means that we can just go in during our time that we are key holder, and it's a bit easier than CLC, but we can have a wee look and see what we can do in terms of CLC.
All right, maybe just take that one away then, and we'll come back to Nicole on that. But thanks for that one. And then another question there is, do all of the criteria for our squad outlines need to be met in order to progress? And the example given is age. And I think you already said you're kind of flexible on the age element. It's more about the skills, but it would be good just to confirm that. Yeah,
so it's really just as long as they're able, as long as we know that they're competent enough, technical wise, over the distance that's kind of required to move up. It's mainly as long as we can see that they are going to cope with the training demands. What we don't want them to be doing is getting moved up too early. So they might have a really, really beautiful technique, but not quite able to hold it over maybe a 200 meters, an example. If we were then to move them up, it's probably going to make them take a step back rather than take the step forward. So, you know, it's just making sure that they're able to cope. In terms of age and stuff, the only kind of progression that we are that we're set on the age is when they're moving to C squad, just because when they get to C squad, they're targeting those district meets which are 11 plus. So yeah, we're quite, we're flexible on quite a lot. It's, yeah.
Right, hopefully that answers your question. Probably one for Lisa. Could I purchase a cap just now if available, or do we need to wait until a meet? Is that something we could organise?
Yeah, so I'm going to put in a mass order for kits, for caps. So hopefully I've got a handful of them fairly soon, or hopefully more than a handful, about 50 of them. It's amazing how many caps as a club that we go through in a year. So I've got 3 or 4 caps now. I'm taking them to a meet with me this weekend. So if I've got any left, I'll keep one for you. But if not, I'll keep you first in line for when the new order comes through as well.
Great, thank you. And I think it's the last question, but yeah, just probably one for you, Heather, just because you're kind of responsible for the club calendar. But are there any, other than mini league, do we have any meets coming up for just some of the younger swimmers? So that's those that are less than 10 years old. So I'm guessing that the new foundation swimmers is a good example.
Yeah, there will be. So there's a few mini meets which are like junior meets. It's not mini league. It's a totally different thing, which a couple of clubs are going to be hosting. A couple of development meets as well. So that'll be the kind of meets that our foundation, Skills 1, Skills 2, maybe even some C squad will be entering. So there will be plenty for them to enter. The goal is to get at least one a month for them. All
right, okay. Thank you very much. Right, I think that's all the questions. So just thank you everyone for taking the time out to join us. The call's recorded, so we will pop it on our club website and publish it for those parents that can't make it. But yes, thank you very much, and thanks Heather, Dawn, and Lisa for putting it all together.
Thank you,
Leave
Chris.
you there. Enjoy your evening. Cheers, guys.
Okay,
thanks,
bye.
Chris.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.